Welcome to the show. Outside temperatures aren't the only thing rising as summer approaches. Political tempers are rising too. This week, during the presidential primaries, the mudslinging increased. Jim, what's up with these candidates and their supporters?
Wow, I don't know. I think, interestingly, I think some of the craziness we've seen, at least from my perspective, has been more on the Democratic supporter side, and some of the craziness we've seen on the candidate side has been more on the Republican side, because you have no idea what's ever going to come out of Donald Trump's mouth. I mean, this whole deal with the judge recently, that, I got to tell you something, and I'm a reluctant Trump supporter at this point, but that gave me reason to pause.
I mean, he lost the endorsements, two Republican senators. Jeb Bush has come out and said he won't vote for him.
Yeah, I don't think it's over yet either.
Oh,
I think he's going to lose more, and I got to tell you, I got to think if that there's others like me that listen to that and say, wait, really? That's your go-to card when you have a problem with a judge. I mean, I have no problem having a problem with the judge saying this guy's nuts, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, but for the go-to card to be, oh, well, it's because he's a Mexican.
Yeah.
That's a little problematic. And I have been a big defender of, not a racist, not a sexist on Donald Trump, but
and he may not be, but his mouth doesn't display that, and that's an important factor to consider.
So, in the recent speeches, he did go back on prompt. That's probably a good thing for him. I know he can speak extemporaneously. We found that, but probably not a good idea.
I don't know that I've ever heard the man put three sentences together.
Well, I almost wonder if, maybe some of this, outrageous stuff that he says, I don't think he actually means half of it.
But it doesn't
I think
matter.
He just wants to appeal to his voter base.
But
which, if you're crazy and you have a crazy voter base, it works.
Hopefully for a rather limited voter base, hopefully.
So, we had more primaries. We had the last Super Tuesday of the election season. And Sanders is still winning some delegates. He got 18 in North Dakota. He got 21 in Montana. Of course, Clinton won 470, or no, actually she won 269 in California, and 18 in New Mexico, and 10 in South Dakota. So, it's over.
Well, it's all down to the superdelegates. I mean, if for some reason the superdelegates were to flip-flop, let's say perhaps Clinton lands in jail, then Sanders can get the nomination.
Short of an indictment, which is
short of an
likely.
indictment,
That's not going
it's
to
over
happen.
for Sanders.
And, ever since Joe Biden decided not to run, I've felt the burn. I've been a Sanders supporter, and it's time for him to just gracefully bow out and support the nominee.
I think that he can walk away, though, feeling successful
he certainly
for
can.
this. The Democratic Party, in my view, saving and accepting Barack Obama, has moved more towards the center, including Hillary Clinton. Bernie is certainly back in what you would call the traditional Democratic, left-wing kind of person, and I think he's forced her back towards that left, at least during this election season.
He did, and he'll have an impact on the the campaign, agenda and that kind of thing, for what that's worth for on the platform. But not that I think platforms are really worth that much, but it seems to be for those who are involved or are highly in their ideology. He'll have an impact on that.
So I'm friends with a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters, and something extremely remarkable I've seen from them is that they are very fanatic in that they have outright said they will not vote for Hillary. Even if she makes it to the election, they said they would rather see Trump become president.
How many Republicans said they wouldn't?
But Republicans have said the same.
But it seems like the supporters are confusing a presidential election with watching their favorite sports teams play. Because it seems like the behavior of supporters at different rallies and whenever they're talking to each other, whether it's the same party or it's the opposing party, they are acting more like, I remember there was some sports game where whoever they were playing, that guy got in the midst with the other player or the other fans, and they beat the crap out of him and sent him to the hospital. And now we have campaign rallies where it's a pep rally, back in high school, football team, and they're behaving the same way. And I'm like, there's a breakdown here of, we seem to have forgotten we're all part of the same country, we're all citizens of the same country, and it's like, at the end of the day, can we all get along? And it's like, I really don't care who you're voting for. It's about, can I respect you to have your own opinion and not think that I need to brainwash you or manipulate you or beat you into submission to agree with me?
Well, yeah, and something that's important to talk about too is the fact that there is a lot of disgruntled voters in both parties, and I think that we're definitely seeing that in this election. Now, I've also seen a lot of trying to browbeat these disgruntled voters into submission, in that I've seen Democrats posting, "Don't you dare vote for a third party, it's the same as a vote for Trump." I've seen Republicans posting, "Don't you dare vote for a third party, it's the same as voting for Clinton."
None of that is unusual or unexpected.
Not unusual, but I'm seeing a lot more of it.
I don't know that we're seeing more of it. That kind of terminology regarding third-party possibilities has been around ever since we've had elections.
Well,
At least ever since our second presidential election, we've had that around.
A third party, though, in every previous election has been a spoiler. And I don't think that there's going to be anything different this year. What I found interesting is what I'll term friendly fire. Governor Haley, for example, comparing Donald Trump to a mass murderer, the church murderer guy. The fact that Democrat Jim Webb has endorsed Donald Trump. The fact that Charles Koch has been spewing all these wonderful, kind words for Hillary Clinton.
I think what's happening is you're looking, particularly on the Republican side, you're looking at folks, and this is why I think Ryan has taken the position he has. He's not looking at winning the White House at this point. They're looking at preserving what they can in the House.
So
And
you think
maybe
the
on
White
Senate.
House is a
That's what
foregone
they're geared to.
conclusion to Hillary?
No, I don't want to. This presidential election, I don't know that anybody wants to actually take Trump for granted. But I think there's a very good chance the Democrats are going to win. I think the Republicans believe that as well, and I think they're trying to consolidate and keep where they can control of the House and possibly maybe the Senate, though I'm not entirely sure they really believe they can do that. I mean, the election is Hillary's to lose at this point. Donald Trump's demographics, he's got such a small supporter base. Those folks are always going to support him, but the demographics in that supporter base are extremely small. And unless he can appeal to a broader range of people, he's just not going to win the votes. And his electoral map is much more difficult for him. It generally is for Republicans to begin with. And those states are their swing states. He's going to have a very difficult time.
So it's been rumored, or actually it's been reported, that one of the things that Sanders could seek in an effort to unify the Democratic Party is the removal of DNC Chairwoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Yeah, that's Moxnick stuff. He may do that out of a sense of revenge, but there's no good to come of that. There's really no bad to come of it either.
Do you think
it's
she's
really
been a
not
good
important.
spokesperson for the Democrats?
No, I don't, but
I
she's
don't
been a
either.
good spokesperson for Clinton. Is what she's been a good spokesperson for, but that's just the way it goes.
All right.
But I think the bigger question that nobody's mentioned at this point is the fact that, I saw the news this morning, and one of the things that Hillary said upon winning different elections last night, that primaries, was that we were knocking on the glass ceiling. And this is the first female presidential candidate for a major political party ever in the United States. And regardless of who wins in November, history's been made. And I
has.
think we're caught up in which is the bigger jackalope, whether it's Hillary or Donald. And I think we need to take time to sit there and look at the fact of, we actually have a female candidate that's going to be the person on the ballot this fall. And that's a huge shift. That's a huge change because, in my opinion, we still have a male chauvinistic bent to this country.
Including her
if
husband.
you look at who's the doctor, who's the attorney, who's the guy you call to do your plumbing or to do your electrical work, or if you look at, hey, this 20-year-old got convicted of rape, 3 counts of felony, what's his punishment?
Yeah.
We still have a male chauvinistic mindset here. And I'm not saying I'm voting for Hillary, I'm not saying I'm voting for Trump, but let's look at the fact of how many other countries out there have actually had female candidates and look at the fact of what can we do to foster more of that and to support it across the board.
I think certainly the younger generations are going to hopefully erase some of the sexism, racism that still exists, and much as I'd like to believe it doesn't, it does. But I also don't believe you can vote for her just because she's got female parts.
No.
That's not a good reason to vote for anyone. But,
Absolutely.
race,
But
sex.
it's not, but it's wrecking the
that's
fact
not a
that
good
history's been made and it is what it is.
And
You
we
know.
had our first black president, and
Exactly.
you look at the last several election cycles, we've had many, many firsts. Not at the top of the ticket, truly, but we've
But-
had a lot of things
Shift is
happen.
happening.
The shift is happening, and that's good as long as we're putting qualified.
So let's see if Donald ends up
Candidates.
with a female VP.
Won't help them.
We've never had a Jewish top of the ticket either.
No.
True. That's all the time we have for that. Next up on the flip side, dead bodies become property of the state after 3 days in Maryland. Stay tuned to find out what Maryland can do with your cold, dead, unclaimed body when we return.